Our habits control the direction that our lives go towards. If we have habits that aren't serving us, habits that aren't leading us to where we want to go, we're not going to get to where we want to go. If we have habits that build up upon each other every single day and start getting us to where we want to go, those habits are going to ultimately lead us to reaching those goals, which in turn leads to our success. So the habits that you do ultimately lead to the success that you have. And the earlier you start, the easier it is, because habits are like trees. Let's say you planted a tree and a seed into the ground. If you've been doing a good habit or a bad habit for a long time, it's going to start to grow roots. After a few months, years, decades go by, those roots grow deeper and deeper. And so eventually, after a few years, you have roots that are so deep, that are so thick, it's extremely hard to get rid of those roots. It's extremely hard to pull the tree out of the ground. Versus after only a year, after only a few months, it's a lot easier to pull that tree out of the ground. So your habits can really either only work two ways. They can work for you or they can work against you. A lot of times people don't even realize when they make bad habits, when they make bad choices every single day, because they can't really see the end result. For example, if I had a coffee with sugar every morning, it seems so small, it seems so insignificant that in the moment it seems like it's going to make no difference. But over time, that decision is going to compound and it's going to change my life in a year, 10 years. And it might even change how long I live, and it most likely will. So really the decisions that we make, although they seem unimportant in the moment, they are very important. And it seems trivial, but really they're not. And that's why it's like a lapse in our brain, a lapse in our decision making, in which we do these bad habits on a consistent basis because it seems like it's not going to make a difference, but it will. For example, going to the gym every day, it seems at first like when you see no progress, going to the gym isn't going to make a difference. That working out isn't going to make a difference in your physique, especially when you see no progress for 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. In reality, there was a difference being made. We just didn't see the results instantly. And we live in a world now where results are delivered pretty much instantly. You can send a message to someone across the world in a few seconds. And so this new psychology, the new effect that this has on our brain is that we want results quicker from everything. And so when we don't see those results, especially within our habits, if we don't see those results, we end up quitting on those habits, or we end up not trying, or we end up thinking that it's impossible, thinking that it won't make a difference, when in reality it will. Habits are probably the most important factor you can have in your life. So really the key to making sure that our habits are serving us is to observe them, to realize in the moment what they're doing to us. So we have to be aware of the decisions that we make. We have to be aware of the effect that those decisions have on us. Because if we're not aware of what our habits are doing to us, how are we going to know whether they're good or bad? How are we going to know if they're actually helping us reach our goals or getting us further and further away? And most of the time, small decisions aren't very hard to make. It's not really hard to change a small habit over time. It's easy to do. The reason a lot of people don't do it is because it's just a tiny bit easier not to do. For example, if you're walking around the house and you see a little piece of trash on the floor and you make it a habit of not picking it up, super easy to pick it up and to do that tiny extra amount of work. But it's also a little bit easier not to do it. And so that's how you'd end up with like a cluttered house with trash everywhere. And I don't think we want that. So if you make it a good habit just to pick up or to clean up whenever you see something that's just a little bit out of place, if you make that a good habit every single time, you'll start to do it naturally. It might be a little weird at first, like, okay, I'm going to put this where it goes. But over time, it starts to build and build, and it becomes so easy. And then all of a sudden, it just becomes natural. It's like second nature to you. And so that's what we want to happen to all of our habits that serve us. We want all of the habits that serve us to become second nature. That way, we don't even need to think about doing them. They just happen automatically. And once all of our good habits are that solidified, reaching our goals is inevitable. It's going to happen because I have all of those good habits. And every time I do one of those good habits, it's getting me just an inch closer to my goal. And my goal might be 1,000 miles away. But doing a few of those every single day and getting consistent in them, it's going to compound and compound and compound. And then the next thing you know it, I'm reaching that goal. And so we just have to make sure that all of our habits are aligning to our goals. We want to make sure that we build the habits that get us there. And you might think you don't have bad habits, but being aware of every small little thing is super important because your habits actually end up seeping into your life. Let's say you develop bad habits in your own house, right? For example, You don't do a lot of the chores, you don't do a lot of the dishes, right? If you let those bad habits develop within your own home, then they're also going to develop when you try to run a business. So imagine that I'm a surgeon and I'm doing an operation on a patient. Over time, I get lazier and lazier, and I make it a bad habit to not clean the utensils. And at first, it doesn't make a difference. Most of the time, the stuff's pretty clean, and we clean it before anyway. So since we clean it at the beginning every single time, right, we don't need to clean it if we're operating on the same patient. And so I make it a bad habit of one time when I'm supposed to clean it in the procedure, I don't. Just a small, tiny habit. Over time, that's going to compound, and the next thing you know, I'm not cleaning at all. And then next thing you know, I get someone sick. Maybe I kill someone. These are those little small decisions that we make in our lives that become second nature. We want to eliminate those. Those bad habits, we want to eliminate those because they're working against us. They're pulling us down. It's like this burden, this weight. And so if we free this weight and develop those good habits that are getting us there, then it's going to be so much easier. Then reaching our goals is going to be pretty much automatic. And there's a lot that goes into changing habits. Discipline, mindsets, and different philosophies are needed in order to develop good habits. You can develop your own habits that reach you. So as I learn more and more about habits, I want to share as much as I can with you. And the best way to do that is for me to build amazing habits. And I've been tracking my habits for over a year now. I've been getting more and more consistent, but this is just the start. I want to get so consistent in my habits that I don't even need to think about them anymore. So if you want to learn more about developing amazing habits that will serve you, take a look at the link I put in the description. That's a link to my online school community in which you get one-on-one coaching from me. My name's Justin, and remember, you deserve the consequences of your actions.